Cadillac Williams talking earlier this weekend, about his respect for history and with the great Nick Saban. Meanwhile, Nick Saban's former assistant, Lane Kiffin, remains the #1 media candidate. Whether that's the real candidate or not, I have no earthly idea. That's why we have Nubyjas Wilborn, who covers the team for AL.com. Nubyjas, great to see you again. So give us the lay of the land. What's happening on the coaching search first?
Well, a lot of people are still high on Lane Kiffin. People within the program, boosters who I have phone relationships with, they definitely seem to be confident that Lane will be the first choice. However, athletic director John Cohen, who will make the decision here, the $1.25 million man, is keeping things very quiet. He's not going with the traditional search committee that Auburn normally goes with. He's actually making the decision himself. He'll get input from Rich McGlynn, General Ron Burgess, those people, but ultimately it will be his call. And so don't be surprised if maybe he goes outside of the Lane Kiffin, the Hugh Freeze, the Coach Prime names we continue to hear, because it's going to be Cohen's hire. I'm not saying he's going to hire Mike Leach, but I am also saying that it could be interesting. Also,
Mike Leach may be available.
Hey, he will, depending on how things go, yeah.
So, Nubyjas, explain that to us more, because, I mean, there's a high degree of cynicism about the way Auburn operates from many, many people around the country, and there's good justification for having that cynicism. What makes you believe that John Cohen is going to be different? From my recollection, only one athletic director has ever made the call independent of boosters, and that was the last one, Alan Green. He chose Brian Harsin. He blew up in his face, and he got fired.
Well, but here's the thing with Cohen. And again, this is a difficult situation. I remember Alan Green was hired by Stan Leaf, who was the former outgoing president. That was kind of controversial already. Alan Green didn't really have certain supports. He made the hire for Brian Harsin. Now with Cohen, he is coming in very supported, even though his politics may be a little different than some people here, but nonetheless, he's very supportive. Also, one of the things about not going with the search committee means there hadn't been any leaks. That search committee leaks like a sieve. Everybody knows that. So he's actually centralizing the process, keeping it within himself, and we'll find out.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on just a second. And I know what you're talking about. You said there haven't been any leaks, but we just got through talking about Lane Kiffin being the #1 candidate. So which one is it?
Well, the Lane Kiffin thing's always been around. Let's just be real. It's been around on both sides. But as far as like who Auburn's talking to each day, if they're talking to people, what people they have actually had real interaction with as far as their agent, that part hasn't gotten out as much. At least since Cohen has been there. He has really cleaned that stuff up. There are boosters who normally would be involved in this thing. I wrote a story on AO.com where a guy literally said, hey, I would normally know by now. And I don't have a clue, but I kind of like it because it's different than what we normally do. It actually is a situation where we're going to empower an athletic director to be the athletic director. It's still shocking. It's still bizarre. But from a lot of people I talk to, they really do not know what's going on. And that could be a good thing for all.
Okay, well, I'm not reporting the story, Nubyjas, so I have no idea what's happening down there. But I do know this. There's one name that always comes up in relation to Auburn, and that's Jimmy Rain. Do we know what Jimmy Rain thinks about the coaching search?
Well, Jimmy Rain's been quiet. Very, very surprisingly quiet, to be honest. I really believe that Jimmy Rain in this particular situation is willing to trust what the greater good for Auburn is. And if you look at things, the way the money's shifting is shifting more towards the people with name, image, and licensing, the On to Victory group that has power, where they have $7 million just earmarked for football alone, and about another 13 or 14 for the whole athletic department. That's where the power is starting to shift at Auburn and within college athletics. So it'll be very interesting how this goes down the road. But yeah, as of right now.
So Nubyjas, are you suggesting that Jimmy Rain will not be involved to a large degree in this coaching search?
It won't, from what I've been told, it won't be the same level of involvement that we may be used to from Jimmy. Not to say he won't be involved at all, but he may not have, let's say if he had 10 shares of the vote, that may be down to maybe 4 or 5 shares. He's still going to have influence, but it won't be the banging on the table influence that he may have had before, from what I've been told.
And it is a fact that he did not want Brian Harsin, so his influence on that was more after the fact. His influence on Gus Malzahn's extension was more after the fact. So, yeah, I mean, there's certainly some reason to believe that the athletic director here does have the final say, which brings me to Carnell Williams. A lot of Auburn people that we talk to, you talk to more than we do, want him to be the new head coach. What do you hear?
Well, I'll tell you what, he is gaining momentum. He is really starting to become more comfortable. Like this first press conference, you can see the bullets sweating. Not so much now. He's still him, which also is something the players like because he hasn't changed. He hasn't decided to become, oh, I'm going to be the big boss, wear the big boy pants. No, he's still Carnell Williams. Cadillac, Coach Caddy, Coach Lack, whatever you want to call him. That's who he is as the head coach. As Tank Bigsby, the running back, said, hey, now he just coaches the whole team like he coaches us. And that's really been inspiring for those guys. And there are people who believe if they can manage to win this Iron Bowl, they have to have a very serious conversation about Carnell Cadillac Williams becoming the Auburn head football coach.
However, hold on, that sounds great in theory, but
it does.
What if the deal's already been struck?
Well, I was going to say there is a school that plays a game on Thursday, right?
Yeah.
And their season will be over before Auburn's season is. Could there be a possibility that the new Auburn football coach is named on Friday or Saturday morning before the Iron Bowl? Yeah, there is a possibility of that. That could very well happen. And would it shock me? No.
But I have to ask you this, and I thought that too until the Carnell story started. But how disrespectful would that be to Carnell Williams if Auburn made this decision before the game Saturday?
Not just Carnell Williams. I would say the staff,
well, sure,
the coaches, the players. I mean, the building, like the facility feels different.
I don't think it's going to happen, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, the facility feels different since Carnell became the head coach. It really does. It's brighter in the building. There's better energy. I've had players tell me they used to dread coming to the facility because of everything going on with Harsin. But with Caddy, man, people are feeling good about themselves, feeling empowered in their roles, feeling empowered throughout the building. And if Auburn were to pull the trigger prematurely, even if it may be the right call, there could be people who really be hurt by that and take it the wrong way.
Listen, I mean, I'm interviewing you, but it's hard to pass on. I mean, John Cohn's a smart guy. I cannot imagine that he would walk into that kind of PR nightmare making this announcement Friday while these guys were ready to go out there and play their guts out for Carnell Williams.
Well, I also couldn't imagine they would have gone on a plane 20 years ago and met with a guy while Tommy Tuberville was still the head coach. So, I mean,
that was a different group of people.
I know.
By the way, as you well know, I don't need to tell you, that wasn't just a bunch of boosters. That was the president of the university, right, the athletic director David Housel, plus boosters. Nobody missed that plane.
Well, I mean, now there's more ways to track it. But that being said, you would hope, and one thing about Cohen, he is definitely trying to reframe the just Auburn being Auburn thing to something positive. So hopefully they're learning from this. They're willing to progress. They're willing to move forward. Some would say even his hire is a bit progressive considering Auburn's more conservative ways, both politically and otherwise, okay? So even that alone shows a little bit.
You've alluded to that twice. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, he's a very conservative man, John Cohen is. It's not very secret that he's a very liberal man. I apologize. In his politics and in his views on life, and you look at his family, everything like that's definitely a little bit different than what Auburn has been used to. So just his hire alone has been an interesting slight sign of progress. But go back to what we said earlier, it would look a little crazy considering that Carnell is going to be the first black man to coach in the Iron Bowl. And before he even gets the full chance to have the full interview for the potential job, you're going to tell him you already hired somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I must say I haven't thought about it until you just started laying it out, but I cannot believe it. I've said this countless times because I wasn't really, this was before the Carnell card came into play, Nubyjas, but you talk about a PR nightmare Saturday afternoon. I think that would be one when people all over the country are saying, well, especially if Auburn won the game.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing about it. And again, going back to the history of it, where this is the first African-American man to be a head coach at the Iron Bowl. That cannot be understated in 2022 with everything we've seen in society. You cannot even come close to being a misnomer on that. Now, look, if Lane Kiffin's the guy, there's a lot of reasons to hire Lane Kiffin. There could also be some concerns as to if he will be someone who will engage with the Auburn community the way that they want a head coach to. I tell you, somebody who will do it, Cadillac can do everything. Cadillac will do all the Tiger Talks, all the tours, sign autographs, kiss babies, and do all the things you want an Auburn coach to do. He will represent the program well, and people will play for him. I'm not saying whether they should or shouldn't hire him. I just hope that they don't do
But I
something
have to
that can
ask you,
take
though,
his
I
movie
mean,
away.
you have laid out a very compelling case, Nubyjas, as somebody who understands this program, for a guy that has already transformed the locker room, something Harsin didn't do in a year and a half. And I think it's a fair statement to say Gus Malzahn didn't do it his last couple of years, did he?
Well, not only the locker room, the atmosphere around the city. Like when he does his show at Bumhauer's Victory Grill, which I know only Auburn people know what that is, or Alabama people. Yo, he had a standing ovation 2 weeks in a row. Okay, Brian Harsin never got a standing ovation. I don't know about Gus. I wasn't covering the team with Gus, but also I saw Cadillac stay over 40 minutes after his appearance to take pictures and sign autographs of people. That stuff means something, man, especially with the team that still has quite a few deficiencies. Cadillac can overcome a whole lot of things, and he can make people feel hopeful in ways that they hadn't. Look at Auburn's attendance last week's game. You know what I'm saying? Like Alabama's attendance for their game against Austin Peay paled in comparison to what Auburn had on a week where both schools had kids gone for Thanksgiving. Students stayed around, stay out of their way to be a part of this because they want to touch the hem of Cadillac's garment. And that's something that you cannot overlook when it comes to being a head coach. Plus, hey, how do you know when you're ready to be a head coach? When you have the opportunity. And right now, Cadillac has the opportunity, and it could be prove foolish to pull it away too soon the wrong way if Auburn's not careful.
Really interesting stuff. Nubyjas, I can't thank you enough. I mean, you have opened the door to something that I think we may be focused on the wrong thing. I don't know. I mean, you're covering the team, but it's really interesting to hear what you have to say.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, man. I'm just trying to, give as much perspective as possible, and we'll see where it goes from here because it could go any way. The Auburn could find a way to win the game, which would be wild. It would be incredible if they find a way to become bowl eligible after where that team was after that blitzing by Arkansas. And to be able to come back, have a chance of being bowl eligible, win that Iron Bowl, Cadillac Williams would have made a very compelling argument to continue and become full-time head coach. Whether that happens or not, we'll see, but he's made an argument for it.
Well done. Always great to talk to you, Nubyjas. You be well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nubyjas Wilborn joining us from AL.com on some really interesting possibilities here in the next few days on the Plains. We'll take a short break, and we are coming right back.